ruby. Oh my gosh. Can't wait. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you there. I've just been swirling and sniffing this 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon from Fidelitas Estate, one of Washington State's most renowned boutique wineries, as you may know. Pull up a chair, I'll pour you some. Or pour yourself a nice cab at home there and listen in. We're gonna be just kind of going through this beautiful wine here, talking about this 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, and a little bit about Fidelitas and Charlie Hoppus. So I wanted to focus on Fidelitas today, as I've been to the Red Mountain tasting room estate and their Woodinville tasting room many times, and their wines are always a joy to experience. Staff is always very knowledgeable as well. I thought it might be fitting to taste their 2018 Cabernet Sauvignon from Blackwood Canyon Vineyard, which is merely a 10-yard shoot from the estate winery on Red Mountain, as 2018 was an interesting year for Washington wine growers and winemakers. There was a lot of heat, but it wasn't overly hot, and the fall temperatures apparently were just right in most cases for that harvest and crush and so forth. So also, I've been to Blackwood Canyon Winery and Vineyard many years ago, a couple of times actually, when it was there and when Mike Moore was still with us. His tasting experience was definitely a unique one, and if you've ventured there yourself in years past, I would love it if you'd comment below. We can maybe swap stories or what have you. It was a very interesting place and very talented winemaker, at least in my opinion. In any case, so I thought it fitting to pull this one, and it just was very alluring, certainly on the Fidelitas website. So without doing a full-blown docu-series on Charlie Hoppus, winemaker of Fidelitas, owner of Fidelitas, I do think it's important to mention the winemaker, at least when you're talking about fine wine, in which case Fidelitas, their entire lineup is what I would call very fine wine. It's important to know the source of that, not just the vineyard sources, but the winemaking involved. So that's why I tend to talk about the winemaker in my videos, because I think it's very important. From my outsider's viewpoint at least, Charlie's winemaking story is rather a romantic one. This is the story of someone who listened to that inner voice, and his interest in wine and winemaking grew to a full-blown passion. Through time, he has been able to see a lot of his dreams come true. So you already know this if you are a Fidelitas Club member or wine lover yourself, but suffice it to say, Charlie is a master winemaker. He's a master of his craft. He helped get Washington Reds onto the world stage. He's worked with countless wineries in Washington State, including Chateau Ste. Michelle, Waterbrook, Three Rivers Winery, Snoqualmie Winery, many others. Charlie has an extensive resume, and we're not going to go through each piece of that, but I do think it's important to kind of note, it's interesting to me that you can kind of see from the early 80s through around 1998, 2000, he had firmly established his roots as a winemaker. And then we see this further drive to, oh, I want to start a winery. So it's just a natural progression. And that's what I think is kind of romantic about this whole story, is that he just keeps following these inner points of interest, if you will, and he becomes successful because he has this love and passion for what he does. It's just apparent. So in 2000, while he was helping Three Rivers Winery of Walla Walla get started, he did manage to, at the same time, I don't know how this guy, he does a lot of stuff. He managed to create the Fidelitas Meritage. So Fidelitas was launched circa 2000 with that. And then that has turned into the Optu Red Mountain in their lineup now. An interesting tidbit about the winery name, Fidelitas, he originally wanted this to be Fidelis as a tribute to his father-in-law, Terry's father, Daniel Fidelis O'Neill. But the name Fidelis was already taken, so trademarked. So they chose Fidelitas. And he and Terry actually started the winery, and then I think it's his brother Lauren. One of his brothers joined in at some point. And by the way, if you're not familiar with Red Mountain American Viticultural Area, it is in the southeastern flank of the Yakima Valley AVA. So it's quite a bit smaller than Yakima Valley. 4,040 acres, I believe. And what makes it unique is the soils, slope, precipitation, temperature, wind, all of these factors combined. The southwest facing slope in particular is rather interesting. It sees in the growing months and throughout the year, well, whenever there's sun, there's nothing blocking that sunshine. And so during the growing months, growing season, those vines are able to heat up during the day and at night cool down. So we have a diurnal shift going on, which is awesome. And then you have, 46 degrees give and take latitude north. All these things combine. Throw in some glacial Lake Missoula flooding, and then you've got the perfect recipe for an amazing terroir. So interestingly enough, this particular Cabernet, 100% Blackwood Canyon, clonate, single varietal, single vineyard, Cabernet Sauvignon, 15.2% alcohol. This is what Charlie says is what he would expect a Red Mountain Cabernet to be. So this one was oak fermented and aged for about, I've heard both Charlie and Will say somewhere between 24 and 27 months, but extended aging. And this is kind of, this wine in particular, the Blackwood Canyon, is one that they kind of started that extended aging program with, and I believe their quintessence wine also sees that aging. They also use, which is really interesting and cool, 50% new oak, new French oak, and 33% new American oak in the aging process for this. According to Charlie, new American oak can be quite aggressive, but with this tannin-laden powerhouse of a cab, it can handle it. And with the 27 or 25, whatever length aging involved with the oak, it does lend some different characteristics and helps to kind of balance it a bit and make it more approachable. So I can open it today, or I can open it in 15 years. Take your pick. Yeah, so I want to swirl, sniff, and taste, actually. Lots of baking spices, a little bit of vanilla, deep dark fruit, and the black cherry notes that you can easily get from this, according to Will in the video that I saw. Clone 8 in particular can lend that aroma and flavor. And it's got a gorgeous, let's see if I can give you, kind of see, I hope, the gorgeous deep ruby color there. Just out of this world. Amazing legs there. Okay. Woo. Man, yes, there is a fair bit of tannin there, but you know what? It is already, of course, I've opened it up here a little bit. It's already showing beautiful notes of black cherry, blackberry, a little bit of chocolate hints here and there, a little bit of a dustiness as well, which both Charlie and Will mentioned is not due to being on the skins of the grapes for too long. It's just part of the calcium carbonate, the soils. It's just part of that natural dust that occurs on Red Mountain, depending on where you are. And also one thing to note, moving from one vineyard to another, you can see, I think there was, more rocky soils in Quintessence, for instance, which is 100 yards away, and then just 10 yards away. Just there's different interesting variations in the soil, lending to an interesting structure in the wines and even though overall the Red Mountain AVA has the heat that it receives in growing season gives these wines a deep tannin and rich fruit base to work with. So it's very interesting. So very powerful, big, robust, and we're talking, these vines are old vines, right? So huge trunks, gnarly old vines as Charlie refers to them. Planted 1983, 1984, they're considered old vines, and they do lend an air of complexity and finesse and elegance in these wines. I'm even getting, well, some Bing cherry, yes. Vanilla notes from the oaking. Toastiness. All the wonderful, deep, very characteristics that any red wine lover loves. So, and just balanced, the tannin is gorgeous. It really gives that structure needed. Dry and very, intense on the nose. Deep, bold intensity. But you can drink this now. You go get some. It's $70 per bottle on their website. Get yourself a case and, stow some away, at least a case. And one thing I wanted to mention, so I think circa 2021, spring 2021 or so, there was a little bit of a transition at the winery. So now, at this point in time, Charlie is now director of winemaking and vineyards. His son, Will, is managing director of the winery, and Mitch Venor is head winemaker. And Mitch, I read somewhere, I believe has been working with Charlie since about 2010, so this is not a huge transition for him. He knows the style of the winemaking and so forth. But style, wanted to say this though, that Charlie is always on the forefront, always wanting to learn more and experiment with different fermentation techniques, aging techniques, clones. He's sort of what I would call a clones nerd. Hope you don't mind me saying that, Charlie, but that's apparent. He's always wanting to learn more, and he's nowadays with his new role, he's more in front of the customer, in front of his supporters, which is what he really loves. And a lot of winemakers may not enjoy that, but he really does. He loves interacting. He's a very social, fun-loving person. My husband and I met him at Taste Washington several years back now, and I was just taken aback by how genuine, kind, just very approachable, and a nice guy with an easy smile. And it's just very, very cool. Oh, I wanted to say, if you have been to Fidelitas, or if you're a club member perhaps, or what have you, or you just love their wine, I would love to see some comments below. Let me know what your favorite wine in their lineup is, and what is your favorite, if you have a favorite. With that, thank you very much for watching this video. We really appreciate any comments, likes, subscribes. It really helps our channel to further grow. And we really enjoy tasting these fine wines and discussing them from hopefully a slightly different viewpoint. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.